At 75, I was in constant pain, until I discovered one simple daily habit that reversed my joint pain completely. I know what you're thinking, another miracle cure that sounds too good to be true. But this isn't about pills, expensive equipment, or complicated routines. This is about a consistent practice that transformed my life when doctors said I should just learn to live with the pain. If you're tired of wincing with every step, struggling to open jars, or missing out on activities with your loved ones, pay close attention. 3 years ago, I could barely get out of bed in the morning. My knees would scream in protest. My fingers were so stiff I couldn't button my own shirt, and my back felt like someone had replaced my spine with a rusty pipe. I'd tried everything, expensive supplements that promised the world, physical therapy that seemed to make things worse, and enough pain medication to stock a small pharmacy. Nothing worked long term. My doctor eventually patted my hand sympathetically and said, "This is just part of aging. We can manage the pain, but you'll need to adjust your expectations." I refused to accept that verdict. There had to be a better way. After months of research and consulting with specialists who actually listened, I discovered that joint pain isn't inevitable. It's often the result of specific deficiencies and imbalances that can be addressed with the right approach. What I'm about to share isn't revolutionary in medical terms, but the consistent application of these principles created revolutionary results in my life. The cornerstone of my recovery was a 15-minute morning routine focused on gentle, progressive joint mobility. I start every day, without exception, with 5 minutes of warm-up. This isn't intense exercise, it's simply moving each joint through its range of motion. I begin with my neck, gently tilting my head forward, backward, and side to side. Then I rotate my shoulders, 10 circles forward, 10 backward. I continue with my elbows, wrists, fingers, hips, knees, and ankles. This initial warm-up increases synovial fluid production, essentially lubricating your joints before demanding more from them. What most people don't realize is that synovial fluid the natural lubricant in your joints, requires movement to be produced. When we wake up stiff and sore, it's largely because we've been immobile for hours, and that vital fluid hasn't been circulating. Those first few minutes of gentle movement are like adding oil to a squeaky hinge. I noticed a difference in my morning stiffness within just 10 days of starting this practice. That initial improvement, though small, gave me the motivation to continue. After warming up, I spend 5 minutes on targeted strength exercises. The key insight that changed everything for me was understanding that joint pain often stems from weak supporting muscles. I focus on isometric exercises, contractions, where you hold a position without moving. For my knees, I sit in a chair and extend one leg parallel to the floor, holding for 30 seconds. For my hands, I gently squeeze a soft stress ball for 20 seconds. The beauty of isometrics is they build strength without stressing the joints. Another effective isometric exercise I do for my back involves standing with my back against a wall, then sliding down into a partial squat position, only as far as comfortable, and holding for 20-30 seconds. This strengthens the muscles supporting my spine without any impact or pressure on my vertebrae. For shoulder stability, I stand in a doorway with my arms bent at 90 degrees, elbows at shoulder height, and press my forearms gently against the door frame for 15 seconds. The final 5 minutes are dedicated to what I call mindful stretching, combining gentle stretches with deep breathing. This reduces inflammation by activating your parasympathetic nervous system. One stretch that proved transformative for my hip pain involves sitting on the edge of a chair, crossing one ankle over the opposite knee, and gently leaning forward while breathing deeply for 30 seconds. I focus on inhaling through my nose for a count of 4, holding for 2, and exhaling through my mouth for a count of 6. For my back, I lie on the floor with my knees bent and feet flat, then very gently bring one knee toward my chest while keeping the other foot on the floor. I hold each position for 30 to 60 seconds while focusing on that same deep, diaphragmatic breathing pattern. Research shows this breathing technique can reduce cortisol levels, which directly impacts inflammation in the body. If you are finding value in these techniques and want to join thousands who've reclaimed their mobility, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. I share new joint health insights every week, and subscribing ensures you won't miss any potential game changers for your condition. I read every comment, so if you have specific questions about adapting these techniques for your situation, leave them below and I'll try to address them in future videos. The most critical aspect isn't the specific exercises, it's the consistency. I haven't missed a single day in 3 years. The science shows that daily movement prevents the gelling phenomenon where inactive joints become increasingly stiff and painful. This gelling occurs when the synovial fluid thickens during periods of inactivity, making movement increasingly difficult and painful, creating a vicious cycle of pain leading to less movement, which causes more pain. On days when I'm particularly sore, I actually do the routine twice, with the second session in the evening, but with even gentler movements. I've found that the evening session improves my sleep quality dramatically. Research from the Sleep Foundation confirms that gentle movement before bed can reduce pain perception during the night by up to 30% for people with chronic joint conditions. 1. Insight that was revolutionary for me was learning to distinguish between good pain and bad pain. Sharp shooting pains are always a warning sign to stop, but the mild discomfort of gently stretching tight muscles and mobilizing stiff joints is actually beneficial. What physical therapists often call therapeutic discomfort. Learning this difference helped me push through initial resistance without causing harm. Beyond the morning routine, I made 3 significant changes to my daily habits. First, I incorporated anti-inflammatory foods into every meal, particularly turmeric with black pepper, which enhances curcumin absorption by 2,000%, fatty fish like salmon twice weekly, and a handful of berries daily. I also dramatically reduced my consumption of what I call the inflammatory trio, refined sugar, processed vegetable oils, and white flour products. These foods can trigger inflammatory responses that exacerbate joint pain. I created a simple rule for my diet. If it grew from the earth or had a mother, it's probably fine in moderation. If it comes in a box with a long list of ingredients I can't pronounce, it's likely to worsen my inflammation. Within 3 weeks of changing my diet, I noticed that the constant throbbing in my fingers had diminished considerably. Second, I prioritized hydration, drinking half my body weight in ounces of water daily. Dehydration reduces synovial fluid, the crucial lubricant for our joints. Most people don't realize that joint cartilage is about 80% water. When we're dehydrated, this cartilage becomes less effective as a shock absorber, leading to increased pain and accelerated wear. I keep a 32-ounce water bottle with me at all times and ensure I refill it at least twice daily. Finally, I established a strict sleep routine. As research shows, poor sleep increases inflammation markers by up to 40%. I go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even weekends. I've banned all electronic devices from my bedroom and installed blackout curtains. The most effective change was implementing a 15-minute wind-down routine before bed, practicing progressive muscle relaxation where I tense and then release each muscle group from my toes to my head. This signals to my body that it's safe to relax and helps me fall asleep much faster. 6 months before starting this routine, I couldn't walk half a block without stopping to rest. My knees felt like they had ground glass in them, and my hands were so stiff in the mornings I struggled to button my shirt. Arthritis had taken over my life, and pain medications were wreaking havoc on my digestive system. I was becoming increasingly isolated and depressed as I withdrew from activities I once loved. My condition was so severe that my orthopedic specialist had recommended knee replacement surgery for both knees, warning me that recovery would be lengthy and challenging at my age. My hands showed the classic nodules of advanced osteoarthritis, and my spine had multiple herniated discs according to my MRI. In other words, I wasn't dealing with minor aches and pains. You do. This was advanced, documented joint deterioration that multiple medical professionals considered irreversible. The transformation didn't happen overnight. The first 2 weeks I noticed minimal change, which almost led me to quit. Some mornings seemed even worse, which I later learned can happen, as dormant muscles wake up and joints begin moving through forgotten ranges of motion. By week 3, however, I experienced my first relatively pain-free morning. I remember standing up from bed and walking to the bathroom without my customary grimace and groan. It was a small victory, but it gave me the motivation to continue. By month 2. I could walk 6 blocks to the grocery store without stopping. I still had pain, but it had changed character cue. From the sharp, stabbing sensation to a more manageable dull ache that faded more quickly after rest. By month 6, I astonished my doctor with a 60% improvement in mobility measurements and significantly reduced inflammation markers in my blood work. My doctor initially thought there had been a lab error and ordered the tests repeated, only to confirm the improvement was real. The most meaningful changes were in my everyday life. I can now pick up my 4-year-old granddaughter again, something I hadn't been able to do since she was an infant. The first time I did this after my improvement, tears streamed down my face as I held her close. I've returned to my vegetable garden, kneeling and standing without assistance. Last summer, I even participated in a 2-mile charity walk. June, something inconceivable 2 years earlier. My reliance on pain medication has decreased by 80%, and friends frequently comment on the return of my smile, which had been replaced by a grimace of pain for so long. I now take an occasional over-the-counter pain reliever maybe once a week, compared to the 6 daily pills that were my previous norm. What surprised me most was how this routine improved aspects of my health beyond joint pain. My sleep quality improved dramatically. I now average 7.5 hours of uninterrupted rest compared to the fragmented 5 hours I struggled with before. My digestive issues, which I had attributed to age but were actually side effects of pain medications, resolved completely. My cognitive clarity has improved, likely due to reduced inflammatory markers that affect brain function. Even my blood pressure has stabilized, possibly from the combination of regular movement, better sleep, and reduced stress from living with constant pain. If you're skeptical, I understand completely. I was too, after years of disappointment with treatments that promised results but delivered only temporary relief. Skepticism is a natural defense mechanism. That's why I suggest starting with just the 5-minute warm-up portion of my routine. Even this minimal commitment can make a noticeable difference within 2 weeks. The key is consistency. Doing something gentle every single day rather than intense exercise sporadically. Many people make the mistake of doing too much, too soon. They have a good day and push themselves to do an hour of exercise, only to trigger a painful flare-up that sets them back for days. I call this the boom and bust cycle, and it's the enemy of consistent progress. It's far better to do 15 minutes daily than 2 hours once a week. Your joints need regular, gentle movement, not occasional, heroic efforts. Let me address some common questions I frequently receive. First, is this safe for everyone? Generally, yes, but consult your doctor, especially if you have recently had surgery or have severe osteoporosis. Your physician might suggest modifications specific to your condition. Second, what if you experience increased pain? Reduce the range of motion and intensity. Never push through sharp pain. Remember, therapeutic discomfort is different from harmful pain. If a movement causes pain that continues long after you've stopped, that's a warning sign to modify your approach. Third, how long until you see results? Most people notice improvements within 3 to 4 weeks, though significant changes typically take 2 to 3 months. In my case, it was about 4 months before my wife noted that I had stopped talking about pain constantly. Something I hadn't even realized myself. Sometimes others notice our improvements before we do. To summarize what we've covered, start with a daily 15-minute routine focused on gentle mobility, isometric strength, and mindful stretching. Incorporate anti-inflammatory foods, prioritize hydration and quality sleep, and most importantly, be patient and consistent. Document your progress by keeping a simple pain journal, rating your discomfort on a scale of 1 to 10 each morning. This objective record will reveal improvements you might otherwise miss and keep you motivated through plateaus. I also recommend taking monthly photos of yourself performing basic movements, like reaching overhead or bending to touch your toes. These visual records can be incredibly motivating when words and numbers don't seem to capture your progress. I have a series of such photos that show my increasing range of motion over time, and they've been invaluable on difficult days when I needed evidence that my efforts were working. Another helpful approach is finding an accountability partner. Someone who checks in with you daily about your routine. My wife took on this role for me, gently asking each morning if I'd done my exercises. Having someone who cares about your progress can make all the difference during those inevitable days when motivation wanes. Remember, it's never too late to make a change. If I can reverse my joint pain at 75, so can you. Age is not the determining factor in joint health. Movement is, and movement begets more movement in a positive upward spiral. The body has remarkable regenerative abilities when given the right conditions. My journey from debilitating pain to renewed mobility wasn't about finding a miracle, It was about committing to a simple daily practice that restored what I thought was permanently lost. The power to reclaim your mobility lies in small, consistent actions. Start today, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Your future self will thank you, just as I now thank my past self for taking that first step 3 years ago despite the pain and skepticism. I've received hundreds of messages from people who have followed these principles and experienced similar transformations. Their stories reinforce what I've come to believe deeply. Our bodies are designed to move and heal at every age. Here's to your journey toward a more mobile, pain-reduced life.